folks. We are live.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Phoenix Business Exchange East End Edition. And hey, August 26th. And the August, where to go, right? Like, holy smokes. It seems faster than usual. So I'm going to take you on a little journey of the PBEX website. And if you're looking from the outside in, come on in. It's far better to participate, get to know us, and us to to know you, but also at the same time show you some of the benefits of being a part of the this community. So I'm going to share the window, and you're going to see the website. It's pbx.ca. Member of the week is Patricia Ramirez. And hey, look, visit any of our four chapters. So we have Monday at 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern, Bell's Corners. Today, East End edition. And South End is meeting tomorrow, 8 to 9 in person. After Hours Group will be meeting on September 1st because there was a hiccup from yesterday, but it's at 7 p.m. And Penny Lee Preville is hosting upcoming member events. So if anybody here or anybody that wants to post content about upcoming events, whether it's the ones they're hosting, holding, or involved with, or think that it's a good idea to share with the group and community so everybody stays abreast of things, get a hold of Kat Hurd and she'll work her magic and post the content in there. Canada Growth meets every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern, free to attend. And, we have different guest speakers from across Canada, states, and around the globe. East Trade Winds, much the same thing. That one's 8 to 9 Eastern and every Tuesday. Now, on the long holiday, which is coming up, I believe September 7th, there is no Canada Growth and there will be no Phoenix Business Exchange. All right. So next week, yes. Not the week after, no. Okay. Just a heads up on that. I mean, you can show up, but you can be waiting in the waiting room a long time. And if that's what you like, hey, there you go. September 21st, we're meeting in person and online at Hive at 1745 Courtwood. Come on out or join us online. Totally, totally cool. You hear somebody talking today and you're going, I want to know about that Mediterranean diet. What's that all about? Yeah, that's a ticket. Well, you can find out all about Susan McGarry just by cruising through this particular space. And we have e-cards, and those e-cards are really handy things. They are a device that helps you promote your business. And what it is, it's an electronic card, and it uses a QR code, and it shows and displays all your different ways of being reached. And so whether it's by email, by phone, carrier pigeon, not so much so. Right. And then it also has a little bit of a YouTube piece in there that you can have a talk and you can say, hi, this is what I'm doing. Business conducted between members, over $5 million worth of business since 2016. Year to date is 35.5K worth of activity of just interactions between the members. Now, I'm going to stop share and I'm going to swing the mic over to the fickle finger of fate because we didn't really discuss this. Who's going to be doing the educational minute? And Tony's going, hang on, a 2 minute, huh? And so that's my best French. Tony, over to you, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you, Bernie. Yeah, I did. I had a client yesterday, and we talked about for the first 20 minutes of why the person is in the present condition. He called and set up an appointment with me because he's in a situation that he feels he can't get out of. And he's been in it for the last 3 months, and he's just stuck. He just can't do anything. So a number of things were channeled through that, and then afterwards, I got this one quote from Marcus Aurelius, and it says, "Most people spend years fighting their present reality, wishing that things were different, wishing they had different opportunities. Oh, how would it be so great if I had just certain circumstances?" In other words, they're looking for a different life than the present one that they're dealt with. And, studies show that a good poker player, it's not about how lucky your cards are, it's how you play the game. It's whatever you're dealt, you are using those cards, that hand, to be able to win. And good poker players win no matter what kind of card they have. And so, how does that work in life? So the Stoics believe that this creates a second suffering. When you are looking at the reality that you're in, thinking that, oh, wow, I can't believe I'm in this. Wouldn't it be great if I was somewhere else? They say that is a second suffering. Because the first suffering is, of course, the event itself. Okay, that's obvious. But the second one is the refusal of accepting what happened, that in it's sort of presented as a gift. It's a hidden one. And there's a reason why that twist was in there in the first place. The second suffering is usually worse because you're always arguing with reality itself, and the mind keeps arguing, and it can forever. This is why two people can experience the same hardship but yet come out completely different. One will say, why did this happen to me? And the other says, what can I build from here? Okay? So, with that note, see if that could go through your day, that no matter what you're going through, there's a hidden gift in there. And so, when we try and find out what it is, maybe it's trying to get you to read more. Maybe it's trying to get you to go to another place. But it is always most uncomfortable. Just before we went online, one of our great yoga teachers, Jacqueline Richards, had a yoga on the beach, and it said it was going to rain. And one of the things is that there was some people that says, okay, I don't want to do yoga near the beach, of course, in the rain. And they had 15 people sort of scheduled, and so they said, well, I'm just going to go rain or shine. And because so many people showed up, and it didn't matter whether it rained or not, it was sunny. And so this is what happens in life. Well, it's not what really happens, it doesn't matter what happens, and you will still be happy. So create that happiness within you. Okay, back to you, Bernie.
Well, Tony, thank you so much. And our next little prompt here is we're live on LinkedIn. So, hey, put some details about yourself and to share it with the LinkedIn community. That's where business lives. And we're going to do the fickle finger of fate of running around and going, who's up next? And who's on first is Sam. And then we will go to Kat. There we go. Sam, over to you.
Sorry, I don't want to go.
Okay, well, so then
I'm
start.
just kidding. I'm just kidding. Good morning, everyone. Sam Sturs, connectedcars.ca. There's my contact information in the chat. Dash cameras are my main thing. In fact, I'm installing one today for a client, but I also do other things like let's see, oil changes, tire changes, ball joints, wheel bearings, all kinds of things like that. So if you're needing something like that, let me know. One thing I'm getting into these days more is reconditioning winter tire rims. I've got several customers have asked me over the years to clean them up for them. They all rusty. So I've been doing that lately. So if you know someone that's interested in that, I do that also. I caught up with all my clients that waited for me while I was away on holidays. So I'm a happy camper. Don't like having clients waiting for me in the wings, but I got them all done now. I'm working on new customers. So that's it for me. No BAMs other than that. Sam Sturs, connectedcars.ca. Today's mobile electronics without the cost of a new car and a heck of a lot more. Oh, by the way, I noticed that Tony got the message about the wearing the right clothing today. Congratulations, Tony, but the rest of you I'm not too happy with.
Sam, thank you so much. And that's another hint, by the way, folks, how to promote your business. Get stuff labeled up and share it with folks. All right. Swag is actually that was part of Vance Morris's chat yesterday. Leave things with people in hand that they can see and handle thereafter. So if you need to handle Sam, get his t-shirt. There you go. Quick prompt for reaching out to Kat and to help promote your content materials while you're inside Phoenix. And speaking of Kat, over to Kat, and then we will go to Jacqueline. Go ahead, Kat.
Hey everybody, I'd like to invite you to join Penny Lee for a very special free Nia dance class to celebrate her 60th birthday. So this Friday, the 28th of August at 11 a.m. at Penny Lee's house. So Penny Lee would absolutely love to celebrate her milestone birthday surrounded by as many people as possible. And of course, she likes dancing, laughing, moving, and having a fabulous time together with everybody. So because it's a birthday celebration, there is one thing that Penny Lee asks you to bring as compensation for this free NIA class. This is one free birthday hug. That's it. No presents, no fuss, no costs. Bring yourself, your dancing feet, and have plenty of birthday cheer. So whether you're a Nia fan or you've never tried it before, come along and help Penny Lee make her 60th birthday one to remember. If you're not able to join Penny Lee on Friday, then please go and find her, whether it's at the post office or at her house, and help her reach her goal for this birthday, which is to get 60 birthday hugs. That's one for each trip she's had around the sun. So could you help me to help her to fill her birthday with dancing, laughter, birthday love, and loads of hugs, and help her celebrate her 60th birthday on Friday? Thank you, Bernie.
Yeah, don't do that at 2 in the morning though. She won't be expecting that. Just FYI. Monday, we have Elizabeth Ice. She's talking about she runs Results Resourcing, service that matches people to the or the employers to the people and finding the right hires. So that's something that's coming up. Again, free to attend. Jacqueline and then Susan McGarry. Go ahead, Jacqueline.
Oh, Peachy. So you already know, because I opened my door and I lifted my shoulders and I took them back and I released them down and I extended my arms out and I thought that was my service yesterday. The service was not to be diluted by not being able to teach, not being able to offer services. And so while I decided not to be disturbed, there was a lot of people who decided not to be disturbed. When I'm speaking about money and big ticket items like, I don't know, homes or cottages or debt reduction, people have chosen to take that long, deep breath, lift their shoulders, take them back, and get out their pens and say, Jacqueline, now what's next? It's not a headstand. It's not a headstand. It is touch your toes. It is take a moment to believe where you want to be can be accessed. When you're looking for strategies for your mortgage money, you need to contact your mortgage honey. And thank you so much, Bernie. That was such a great episode on Tuesday. Now, it was not Van Morrison, as I continue to say. It wasn't Van Morrison. And it was great. It was awesome. Keep bringing those speakers in because I learned so much. Thank you. And I had a meeting with Kelly Harrington yesterday. Another great opportunity to know more about what she does. Cheers, everyone.
Jacqueline, thank you so much. And the next quick prompt is a reminder about the 21st of September coming up. And it helps if I could spell September a bit better, but hey, I'm working on it. And over to Susan McGarry and then Susan Ebbs.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Bernie. Susan with Pure Trim, a company that I've been working with for over 25 years now. I go by the company name, my personal branding of Best You by Design. And the whole objective is to work with people one-on-one to identify their areas, their points of pain. It could be joint muscle pain, it could be low energy, it could be poor circulation. Poor digestion is a big one these days with the food chain, as well as weight management. And so what I do is I offer a service that identifies what those pain points are and then work with them over time, over a period of time, to bring back their vitality, bring back what they're missing in their health. So many people are suffering needlessly. A lot of doctors are just saying, it's old age. But, as my doctor said to me, I notified your other doctor that you're a success story, Sue. I've never dealt with anybody like this that's so healthy. And I said, I know it's 60th year now, and it blows me away. So if I can do it, everyone can do it. Everyone if given the opportunity. So Susan with Pure Trim, thanks so much. No BAMs to report. Back to you, Bernie. Thank you.
Susan, thank you so much. And on September 1st, Sanjay Gupta is presenting at East Tradewinds, and he is talking about the Profit 10 framework and more details for if you're a coach. And Susan Epps, over to you, ma'am.
It's Susan Power this morning. Good morning, Susan Ebbs with melaleuca.com. And we help you to detoxify your home by taking out those nasty, nasty chemicals. One product I'd like to highlight this morning is called Pre-Spot. You know, if you're out at one of those business meetings and you spill some wine on your top or your skirt or your pants, well, Pre-Spot is a quick little bottle about 2 inches tall, and it can eliminate that stain immediately. They also have a spray and also a brush one. So it's got no chemicals in it. And more these days, we're finding more people are having ADHD, autism, and it's just becoming just too much in the school systems. So we like to help people save money and help save the environment. And so Susan Ebbs with melaleuca.com. And let's see, well, I have ongoing business with Penny Lee and also Wendy Chung. And that's it for me this week.
Susan, thank you so much. And I'm going to swing the mic over to the people not paying attention. Tony, how you doing? Sorry, man. I'm going, I've covered the ground already.
Oh, I was paying attention. It's just, and just to continue on the immortal words of Jacqueline, where we choose not to be disturbed. Well, I, on the other hand, choose to be disturbed. I bring in a level of an approach when people come to me and they see things in one direction, and I totally disturb all that to kind of look at it as maybe this is a gift. And for the first time, no one ever said it that way. And in other words, they're looking at a situation where they just got laid off and they're in a position where, they're so looking at, why did I get laid off? What was the whole idea? I think I got betrayed. And I think, on and on it goes. And they're in that mode. And I finally say, well, how is that helping? It is true. They put you in, you're in this situation. But maybe this is a gift. Maybe you're supposed to be on your own and you've always wanted to do a business. And as we got into it, it's always been a dream of his to somehow be on his own and do his own thing, but he would never have done it, consciously. So I says, okay, well, you didn't choose, so the universe chose for you. It's always more difficult to get into it, but when you get the truth, this is what I sort of bring to the table, is that I go right for the... exactly. I don't pull any punches. I tell it the way it is. And this way a person can make decision based on the truth, based on really why that person is in that situation. And all of a sudden things turn around, literally within days. This one client that I had last Friday ended up saying that, I felt so much lighter on the weekend just because I'm looking at this somehow this is supposed to be a good thing. I was always swimming in the fact that what am I going to do, and totally in fear, totally in anger or whatever. And I says, okay, well, now you've been through that, you know how that has done over the last 3 months. So how can we move that around so that it's something more constructive? And it's made a big difference because now the person has accepted where they are. So in all of that, we are having a sound bath this evening at 7 p.m. to 9, those 2 hours. We are going to be talking about, what else? The Lionsgate. The Lionsgate started at 08, but it goes right up until August the 28th, this Friday. Penny Lee's birthday. And it is all about bringing the abundance that you really want in. And I am reminded, and we're going to be talking about this tonight, I am reminded that the number 8 is basically 2 circles put together, and in between it is linked. It is not a bucket. Abundance is not something you accumulate. It's not something that you have a checklist, and not something that you, okay, this is all the things I want, and as we get them, we check them off. Lionsgate and manifestation is all about flow. It's all about something that keeps moving. It's not about accumulating anything. It's you just want to be able to experience the things that you want rather than having it that you think you own it. We don't own anything. At the end of all this, we're just renting all of this and we're just borrowing. It will end up being someone else's in time. So make it as it's a flow of energy. So those of you that are interested in coming tonight, we'd love to have you. It's 2 hours of self-reflection and really bringing a level of silence. So when you bring a question, you'll have an answer by the end of it. Okay? So Tony Jennings from Higher Self, we are here to be disturbed. So yeah, the ongoing business with Josh, of course, he's been continually, we're still having some issues with our email. So he's still working on that. Boy, he's one tenacity, very lot of tenacity there. When something doesn't work, he says, a lot like Sam. You know, when something gets him, he just doesn't stop until he gets a solution. Or if he says no, it can't be done, you know, it is done. He's done everything. And yeah, then we got Eric Senego. He's our accountant for Phoenix, and we have another company that he's also working on. And we have East Trade Winds. Went there with Bernie yesterday. Great meeting there, Bernie, for that. And Carl Richards was meeting with him a while ago that I don't think I mentioned. We had a BAM and a strategy session, and I'm thinking of getting some more stuff through Susan McGarry as per usual. And okay, we'll back to you, Bernie.
Oh, yeah, thank you so much. And Sharon LaFlamme, if you're at East Trade Winds, I would know who she is, and she's working with Mitch Weisberg. She's running an event this week on the 27th, Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. It's about anger, why it shows up, what your body's telling you, how to catch a signal before the reaction, and I guess the idea is so that you manage control of the outcome. Go ahead and register for the event and check it out. Meanwhile, back at this ranch, we've got myself. So, got the podcast, blog.knackforbusiness.com. We'll tell you and show you everything that's up and running of the most recent podcast release, including the East Trade Winds. So we want to hear about Vance Morris, or Vance Morrison, as he might be identified as. You can hear him talk. You can read about it. All the sagely advice is all in one spot. What else to tell you? Did a referral for Carl, someone who might be looking for the podcasting services as production. So took care of that. And having Tony and Jacqueline at the East Trade Winds, great. Having Carl at Canada Growth Network on Monday. His content will be coming out on Thursday morning. It's just timed releases. And the podcast will go live on Friday. You know what? I'm going to stop there because you know what? Our main entertainment. Oh, I don't think it's more an entertainment. Our sagely Yoda of finance, Mr. Eric Senego. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Bernie. You're getting a very tired Eric Senego this morning, but I'm gonna talk about the 5 things that are important for a business from an accountant's perspective. Okay, this is what I see on my desk, on the other side of the desk. What people feel is important to them, and what we think should be important to them, which could be 2 different things. Number 1, mind your bank account. Cash flow is the lifeblood of a small business. It's not sales, it's not profit, it's cash flow. And number 1B is pay yourself. Pay yourself before you pay anybody else. Because if you don't pay yourself, you are not feeding the beast. And if you don't feed the beast dies. Pay yourself. Number 3, treat your customers like they're the bloodline of your business. In fact, treat the people that you're involved with, treat your team, treat your people that you see every day as if they are the thing that's making your business go permanently. Because if you lose any one of those, if you lose your team, you will be out of business in 6 months. If you lose your people, you will be out of business in 9 months, 9 to 10 months, because it takes a time for customers not to come back, for clients not to come back. Number 4, do not confuse market potential, business potential. The worst thing that can you be facing is a market without competition. If you face a market without competition, rather than saying there's a whole market there, ask yourself, why isn't there anybody there already? Things may be happening when you have a business with a market with nobody there. Number 1, you have such a new product, such a new process that in fact nobody's invented it yet. But what's going to be stopping you is you, because you have to remember what size you are and what type of team you have to be able to attack that market. Once you advertise to that market and you develop a hunger in the customer, then you have to deliver. And if you don't have the size to deliver, you don't have the people to deliver, you don't have the mechanisms to deliver, you will never be able to be in that business again. And I can give you a name. Cooper Pickers of Ottawa, right? I would say when I was still a civil servant, I listened to this story on CBC radio. 2 guys with a truck started a business of picking in the dog poop in the backyards in the spring, okay, when everything melts and you don't want to go back there. If you have a dog, they would come over and pick up the poop. Their worst mistake that they made, it was not something that they made themselves. It's the unfortunate thing that happened to them of being picked up by CBC radio for an interview. And CBC radio picked them up for an interview on the afternoon driving show that they have from 4 to 6. And there were two nice young men who had a truck. And what happened was the phone came off the wall for them. But there were only 2 guys with a truck, and they could not supply the market. And they had to go out of business. And they left behind a really bad taste because, they had booked all these people up, but there were only 2 guys with a truck. There were only 2 guys with a truck. And 2 guys with a truck cannot do 50 homes in Orleans today. And that's what happened to them. So make sure that if you have a market like that, you don't talk to people too loudly. Start it slowly, and you start building your team so that you can, have 2 trucks, talk to the bank so you can have 3 trucks, and do it over a period of 5 years maybe. Should have taken them 5 years to get the demand they raised with CBC radio. But who were they to know? And who's going to turn down a radio interview in a popular program? Number 4, not confuse. Be the hardest working person in the environment. The people you work with should complain about you working hard, because it is your baby. Business is your baby. Baby is never going to grow mature enough to be able to be by themselves. Be a perennial 4-year-old that you have to feed, you have to control, and you have to gear, right? And it will become smarter, but it will always be that little child, because that's your child. So as you grow, make sure that you realize that you have to be the person. Well, if you open up a restaurant, frankly, you have to be the person who opens up at 7 o'clock in the morning and the person who closes the restaurant at 1 o'clock at night. If you don't do that, you'll be out of business in 3 months. Because the people who work for you, especially in the restaurant field, will rob you blind. Those nice young people that work for you, and my name is Susie, and what would you like to order? That person will not report their tips, will not report their sales, will not do anything. So make sure that if you're in a restaurant, you're the person that controls all of that process. That's why I recommend to people to buy franchise. When you buy a franchise, the franchisor is the one controlling that. Systems are in place, the delivery is in place, so what comes in the cash stays in the cash. But the people who are the people who you see in the bankruptcies, the rest, every I would say every year in the fall, I hear of a restaurant in Ottawa that was very popular and they decide to close the doors. And they interview the chef and things like that, and they say, well, you had lots of people. What happened? Oh, it's a tired idea, and we couldn't make it go. What happened was they were being robbed blind. That's what happened. And they ran out of money, even though they had a very popular place. And you can read that every October in the Ottawa Citizen. There will be one restaurant that will happen to that. That is a very popular restaurant today. That people are going to and people are eating, and you have to call for reservations and you have to do all of that kind of stuff. So make sure that you know what is ticking for that restaurant, and make sure you know the Achilles point of your restaurant or your business. Okay, like I know our Achilles point here. Right? Our Achilles point is that we are in a stressful business. We deal with stressful clients, and we have to be neutral, and we have to be friendly, and we have to make them walk away from here happier than they were when they came in. That's very difficult to do for an accountant. That's very difficult to do for an accountant. So we work really hard at doing that. At getting to the happiness of that person as close as we can. That by not adding extra stress with them. We do that. If they complain about they can't get through to CRA, we take that away from them and we say we'll do it for you. Don't worry about that. If they complain that they're either running behind on their taxes, paying their taxes, I take that away from them and I say let's talk to collections. Let's have a payment plan. My job is to offer solutions to their stress. When they leave here, they are much less stressful, and they have a plan. So make sure that you know what that is in your business, why people are there. And I keep saying that to my staff constantly. When I started my first job out of university, I was working in a I would say a large accounting practice in Toronto. Maybe there was 85 people there, and I was the star coming out of school. Okay, I was a star coming out of school, for lack of a better term. So every partner wanted me to work for them, and finally, they gave me to their oldest guy who was about to retire a year from then. So I worked with that guy, and he had a weird sense of humor. He had a weird sense of humor, and he was sarcastic, and he was all that kind of stuff, right? So, and he was in his 60s, so he didn't care. He was going to cash out and go, right? So he didn't care. So I remember he interviewed me for the job, to be his assistant. He interviewed me, and he said to me, well, what are you going to tell a client when you visit him? And I told him what a student from university would tell. I would say, I would do an analysis of his financial statements. I would tell him, I would look at his cash flow on the page. I would tell him, his profit margin. I would tell him, how to improve it. And he said, no, don't tell him anything. He says, He opened up his drawer and he put a bottle of aspirin on the table and he says, "You are the aspirin for that business. They don't care what you do as long as you you solve their headache. That's your job." And I've always looked at myself as a bottle of aspirin. The client doesn't care. The client doesn't care what I say to CRA, what I do with them, what I do to collections. They just want that problem out. So I don't spend time telling the client what I did with CRA. I just tell them, oh, I called them. This is who I called. Boom, that's it. But I don't tell them that I was half an hour on the phone with them. Well, you'll see it on the bill, but I don't tell them, that I was half an hour on the phone with them, or that I had problems with them, or that I was threatening them, right? And like none of my clients know how I deal with CRA and what I tell them. Like if I see a client being pursued by CRA, I don't talk the phone and tell CRA, what can we do? I know that the client is not guilty. I know that he's paid his taxes, but they are arguing about how we pay these taxes. If he knows that, I said to CRA, look, I'm busy. My wife wants me to take holidays and I can't take holidays. I cannot deal with this. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I will raise an objection and I will entice the objection department to go into appeals so I can see you in tax court so you can talk to a judge about this. How's that? And soon enough, CRA will say, well, let's look at this again. The boss of that person will call me and say, let's look at this again. Maybe we were too rash. Soon enough, that will happen because I threatened to go to tax court. Because nobody wants to go to tax court, least of all me. But they don't know that. They think, we have lawyers in house that we can send to tax court. But no, right? But that's the Achilles point of CRA, right? For tough, deals with taxes. That's the Achilles point of CRA. Is going through objections and appeals and CRA. So we use that, but we don't talk about it with the client. We just say, this is the way work we've done. This is what you have to do. This is what we need to do. Period. And there's our bill. We don't tell them, how I felt, how I fought with CRA or what I did with them, because they're not interested. They just want the headache gone. And that's the last point I want to talk about is mind the CRA. Keep them on your good side. I caught Caroline in my office having an argument with a client yesterday about installments. This is an old Swiss couple that have been clients for a long time, and this year they have to pay installments. He thinks that installments is the old tax, and Caroline could not convince him that installments was not tax that he owes, is prepaying his tax for the following year. So I told him to transfer me the guy, and I said, Ernst, what's his name? I said, Ernst, come to my office and I will put a diagram in front of you, and I will show you what you owe and what they want from you. And he says, well, I know people who owe tax and don't pay installments. And I say, yes, you don't have to pay installments. But if you have the same year next year than you had last year, and you owe $3,000 in tax at the end of the year, they're going to charge you for those $3,000 interest from January 1st of that year. So if you go in 2026 and you owe, in spring of 2027 you haven't paid your installments, when you go there, to pay when they assess you, they charge you for those $3,000 as owing from this January 1st, 2026. For that preceding 12 months up until April 30th. So that could be sizable. The more money you owe, the more money it is. So I explained that to him. But I said to him, come to the office, have a coffee over this. We can even talk CRA, you know, I'll have them on the phone. You can talk to them about installments. Because installments is a suggestion. And the suggestion is, you know, we suggest you prepay your taxes for next year, but if you don't, we'll get a pound of flesh from you anyway. Right? That's, you know, you're dealing with people who are mechanical killers, right? Unlike what you see on TV, they have no brain. It's a computer telling them. They have absolutely no brains. You have to make sure that you know that. You have to make sure that the client knows that. Make sure the client digitally but doesn't talk to anybody because they write everything down. So not abuse CRA, let us abuse them. Do not scream to them, let us scream to them. You know, they understand that we are just a third party, that we don't have skin in the game, that we're just the accountant, and they treat us accordingly. Whereas when you call, they understand that you are not a third party and you have skin in the game, and they get nasty with you. So make sure you know the difference, right? And you know, make sure, you know, like, remember that when you do your taxes, when most of you here do your taxes, okay, you are self-employed. Self-employed people do not tell the government what to do during the year, and then in the year they do a self-employment report. You know, in most cases, a T2125 that tells the government, these are my sales, these are my expenses, and this is my net income, and this is what I owe in taxes. Okay, that's how they behave. So the government has not seen that before. A few years ago, a human being used to look at that and say, "Oh yeah, Susan Ebbs, yeah, you know, multi-level Melaleuca, yes, it's one person. Okay, it's possible that these numbers are hers. A computer cannot do that. A computer, some variations between you and everybody else. And the letter you get from CRA is not sent by a person. It's the same computer that sends you a letter that says, you know, I need more information on this expense on marketing. I need more information on your payroll. I need more information on this. I need more information on that. And you get nervous because you think, oh, I think I cheated. What happened? But that's what's happening today because computerization does not have brain, does not know, you know, what any one of us is potentially doing, what any one of us, you know, the difference between you and someone else, you know, Jacqueline in her office between her and someone else who's doing her, you know, who's also, you know, a mortgage broker. The two person, you know, the mortgage next to the mortgage broker next to Jacqueline could be 70 years old and one working 2 days a week because he wants to be in the game. He wants to have, or he or she wants to have, you know, something to say. Jacqueline is working 5 days a week, you know, or 7 days a week in that field. So if I compare Jacqueline's report with this guy's or that woman's report from you know, sitting next to her in the next office to her, you know, and I'm a computer, I'm going to say, oh, this person only drives, you know, only spends $300 a year in automobile, and Jacqueline $6,000. What is wrong with this? Send her a letter. That so that, because the machine needs to be educated, and it's getting worse with that artificial intelligence is picking up things like, well, you know, my wife got a collection letter from CRA last week. You know what she owed? $2.51. And she got really upset, and I said, Deb, it's a computer talking to you. It doesn't know. Just send them $2.51. Kill it. You know, that's what's happening today because that artificial intelligence is going to the nearest penny. 50 cents is really important, and it's really cheap to collect because there's no people involved. It's a computer doing it. So if there are a million debts in Canada that owe $2, that's $2 million that they just collect. Right? So make sure that you keep CRA happy, that you do your taxes, that you pay your installments, that you do all of that kind of stuff, and make sure that you know the difference between the money that you collect on behalf of the government and the money you collect on behalf of yourself. I cannot fight for you on GST and payroll matters that you've collected taxes and are remitted. I can only get you terms from collections, but I can really fight you on income tax. I can even fight for you in income tax because it's your money that you're protecting. And they have a different attitude to the people that owe income tax, to the people that owe payroll tax and GST. But some people get into trouble with those because they don't have enough cash in the bank to pay the employees and to pay the government. So that's why I say that cash flow is the most important lifeblood in your business. Cash flow and the people that provide the cash flow. And in the case of most of my clients, the part of the cash flow is in their employees and their customers and the bank. So that's the things that they have to manage. Those three things. If you can manage those three things, the other four things that I've told you get done. But to manage those three things, you borrow from all of those things that I told you, all of those other 4 points to be able to manage properly. Anyways, any questions?
So if you pay them $2.52, does that really screw the computer up for that 1 penny?
No. Well,
Does
they
it
will
make
send
them-
you a bill for a penny, and they will add it to the next assessment.
No, not underpay them, overpay them by a penny.
Or if you overpay them, they will give you a credit and put it in the next assessment. Or they will say that they will reassess you and say that you owe to $50.52. And so yeah, yes, and we have to get used to that because now it's a computer, it's an artificial intelligence. So now all of the data comes in, and the computer decides who they're going to call, who it marries the data that they see with the national statistics, the regional statistics, and the local statistics. So if you look at Jacqueline, it will look at her and everybody else who does mortgage financing in Ottawa, and they bring it down to the level of one person. One person. How is Jacqueline against this other person who works in the same town, does the same level of sales, and so on? So let's say they both have, I don't know, $90,000 in commission, both of them. Jacqueline ends up with a loss of $15,000. They have a profit of $15,000. Could be that Jacqueline had more costs. She had to entertain more people for $90,000. It could be the other person is more experienced, has better connections, and doesn't have to entertain as many persons. So he or she can make more money on the $90,000. So computer will not think about that. The computer will say, oh, Jacqueline is spending too much money for her $90,000. Let's look at her closely. And that's where the letters come in. So if you're in an established field like mortgage brokering, like real estate people, you are followed up to the penny and compared to your field. If you sell mortgages for Remax in Ottawa, or homes rather for Remax in Ottawa, or real estate, they'll compare you to all of the real estate people in Ottawa. And
that wouldn't work for Bernie. That would not work for Bernie's the only business connector ever.
That's right.
I don't know anybody that does what Bernie does.
That's right. But it depends. But they're forcing Bernie to classify himself when he does his taxes.
Yeah.
you cannot e-file your taxes unless you put a SIC code, industry classification code that's telling the government, this is who I am. I am Bernie, and I do this, and that's how they compare. Sam?
Go ahead, Sam.
Eric, what would cause someone to need to prepay their taxes? What's the purpose in that?
If you do your taxes, let's say next year, and you owe $2,000, at the end of the year, in spite of the taxes you've paid, you owe $2,000, to the government. It could be because of pension split or whatever, but you owe $2,000. They will expect installments on that, on $2,000. It's less than 2,000, they won't.
Okay, so it's on it's on money owing, not prepaying like for next year's
On
taxes.
money that you owe this year. So at the end of the year, when you do your taxes, you owe money, then they expect you to pay installments the following year.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
But
It's just a guideline.
yes. And it's a suggestion. I mean, some people leave a job, 1 year, and have a cash out, and they have pensions coming in, and they have a bleep year where they owe a lot of money to the government at the end of the year. But they're not going to have that the following year. So I tell them not to pay installments because they're not going to have the same year next year. But if you pension split, and you have investments, and you have all of that kind of stuff, and you have business income, and you owe $2,000, you should pay installment. If you owe more than $2,000. I have a customer close to me, my wife, who has to pay installments, and she is, she doesn't like it, but I tell her, this is what, and if I can convince my wife, I can convince anybody. So I don't have trouble telling people what to do. If I can convince my wife, I can convince anybody, because she thinks that the taxes are not being spent properly, that she's not funding these killers, whatever she calls them, right? That is a difficult nut to crack. But I tell her. She was really upset 2 weeks ago because she got an email from CRA saying, we've reassessed you, and she doesn't know how to access her account. So I told Caroline, and Caroline got busy. So I knew that when my wife came from out of town, that's the first thing she would ask. So I went to her account, and I got the letter, and I printed it, and when I read it, it's $2.51. So I could call them, and I could scream at them, but the person on the phone had nothing to do with the letter. Right? They would agree with me that it's idiotic to send a customer or a taxpayer a letter for $2.51. They would agree with me, but you cannot argue with them. So I could argue with them if I object, and I threaten to go to tax court. But am I going to do that for $2.51? No.
Yeah. I'm not sure how true it is, but a friend of mine said he had a bill that came in from CRA, and it was for $0.00, and they were threatening to do something with his garnishee of wages or something. So he sent him a check for $0.00, and then they responded by saying, "Thank you for your payment." Meanwhile, they probably spent about $4 on postage and letters and mails and whatever.
Well, I've been sitting here on a charitable return because I am not happy with them, with the charity in question. I don't like to go to their meetings. I don't like their board. So I sat on their financial statement for 6 months. They sent me, not them, a registered letter that I had to file. So yesterday I filed it. Or they were gonna, take away the charitable status, do this, do that. So the charity raised $10,000 last year. That's it. Their expenses was $35. They have
Oh,
$11,000 in the bank.
Syria
So,
doesn't like that.
so,
Unless, of course, they have a reserve fund.
so what's the big hurry? But I sent, and to send it, we changed tax programs this year. So the one we have now, tax cycle, that the firm has, is made for people without brains. That's all I can say. Right? They anticipate that the person doing the taxes is not thinking. The one I had the year before is made for people who know taxes. So this is made for my employees and for the juniors of the world, but everybody uses it. So what happens was that the return could not. They told me that I could e-file it, but I couldn't. So I had to go to the site and I have to do it by hand on the CRA site, and it took me 3 hours, and I was more upset afterwards than now I want to go to their meeting and tell them, this is incredible. You guys are not behaving, and I'm not gonna bill for this. This is pro bono. Go on. But that's the issues that we're dealing with now. Whereas before I could do it by phone.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Eric. Good presentation. Quote of the day.
Okay,
Thank you,
the
guys.
quote of the day. The quote of the day is the most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any, unless of course they're talking to a CRA computer with AI.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alice Walker just gave a comment. Less the CRA component.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. Very true.